okay?
Yeah, Mom?
What are you doing?
I'm taking over a TV network.
Finish up, honey. Go to sleep.
They're hackers.
Hackers penetrate and ravage private and publicly owned computer systems.
Hack the planet!
It's not just something they do.
Sure this sweet machine's not going to waste.
Are you challenging me?
It's who they are.
I win, you wear a dress on our date.
And if I win, so do you.
They can crack any code. And get inside any system.
Oh, Mr. Gill, according to our records, you're dead.
I'm what?
But this time,
Here, look at this.
Some kind of virus.
unless $5 million is transferred to the following account, I will capsize 5 oil tankers. They just hacked the wrong guy. Game's over.
Where's the Russians? Need somebody to take the ball.
He's about to commit the perfect computer crime.
You created a virus that's going to cause a worldwide disaster?
And they're about to take the blame.
Hacker planted the virus. That's a perfect company. What are you afraid? You may be analyzed. I don't play well with others.
Wow, we are fried.
Okay, let's nail it.
No,
You're not good enough to beat me. Yeah, maybe I'm not. But we are.
they're the only ones who can prevent a catastrophe.
I don't want to stop this demonstration like that. Are you nuts? Come at me!
Unlike any the world has ever seen.
Never seen a boy do a woman's job.
Hackers of the world, you have cops on the proof. Any more time?
This is the end, my friend. The artist welcomes you to the new world. Hackers.
Known best for its crazy 90s fashion and catchphrases such as "pool on the roof must have a leak" and "hack the planet," the movie Hackers has become known as a cult classic of its generation. However, if everything Hollywood is removed from the movie, has the movie actually earned its name Hackers? Let's find out. Though the movie didn't come out until 1995, Rafael Moro started the script in early 1986 after the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act was put into effect. An early observer from the early 80s, he would receive his information from actual hackers. One of the most renowned was Mark Abin, or Fiber Optic, a known member of both Legion of Doom and Masters of Deception. Fiber Optic was a high-profile hacker who started messing with computers at age 9 and would eventually serve a 1-year sentence before being released in 1994. In the 1980s, hackers were more known as joyriders rather than malicious, with the media being accused of overstating the danger and glorifying the hacker incidents. It was the 1990s when hacking really began to attain its notoriety and even tarnishing the name by an ever-increasing number of cyber crimes perpetrated by crackers or hostile hackers and the high-profile arrests that followed. In an effort to crack down on computer crimes, the Secret Service launched sting investigations, conducted early morning raids, and arrested a number of hackers. Hackers use various handles from known hackers. Dane Murphy was a nod to Ian Murphy or Captain Zap, who among other hacks is known for changing the internal clocks of AT&T with 3 cohorts, causing late-night discounts in the afternoon and expensive bills for those waiting until after midnight. Joey was from Joe Ingracia, or Joy Bubbles, a 7-year-old boy with perfect pitch who discovered that his whistling ability could interfere with AT&T's automated telephone system, opening the door to phone phreaking. Ramon, or the Phantom Freak, referred to himself as 9X, not only a reference to the telephone company in New York City, but also to 9X Freak, who was another member of the Masters of Deception. Whether referred to as Emmanuel Goldstein or Serial Killer, this character's names would pay tribute to 2 other hackers, Eric Corley, whose pseudonym was Emmanuel Goldstein, and John Draper, aka Captain Crunch, another phone freak. Phreaking referred to those who loved the telephone systems and experimenting with how it worked. However, most were known as those who stole telephone services, using a whistle like the one found by Captain Crunch, or using a blue box to mimic the sounds a telephone would make, in order to make calls without paying. In the 80s and 90s, they could also use a cassette recorder to play tones into a phone to play specific sounds, preventing paying long-distance pricing or having to drop coins in a payphone. Other handles used by characters would not be found on a hacker's list. It is not uncommon to have many hackers that are never known outside of their world. For example, the Plague was a friend and part of the Masters of Deception, as well as Acid Freak, possibly who Acid Burn was named after. Joey, when trying to come up with handles, also uses names of current hackers: Master of Disaster, Ultra Laser, and Dr. Doom. All of the computers on Hackers were various Apple models, most likely chosen because of the graphic interface. Kate's laptop is an Apple-powered book duo, though argued whether it is a 270C, 280C, or 2300C. One of the first Matrix equipped with a color screen, they were the lightest of all Apple PowerBooks at the time, with a 4 megabyte RAM expandable and a 240 megabyte hard drive. Kate is quoted as saying it has a P6 chip that is faster than Pentium and having a RISC architecture. Both the 280C and the 2300C were designed to have a power P601, so they would stand up to that phrase. Dade was shown with two computers, one a laptop 540C and then another known as a luggable. It was around 17 pounds. The 540C ran just a bit slower than Kate's and had a CIS architecture. It was most noted for having stereo speakers, a trackpad, and Ethernet built in. It was also fairly heavy, at over 7 pounds. Serial, Lord Nikon, and Freak were all theorized to be using Apple 180s, but with a compact Toshiba and Toshiba Dynamo outer casing. The 180C was also a 33 Hz and a CISC processor, but displayed a 4-bit grayscale. It included a disk drive, 2.5 megabyte hard drive, and 4 megabyte RAM were standard. And this brings us to Lucy. Joey's computer was an Apple II GS, a 16-bit personal computer with the GS standing for graphics and sound, referring to its enhanced multimedia hardware and state-of-the-art audio. The processor ran a 2.8 megahertz, allowing it to use more RAM, and with the 320 by 200 pixels, it would show up to 3,200 colors on the screen at once. His modem was acoustic and converted 28.8 kbaud per second of information back and forth between terminals. In 1995, most modems topped out at 28.8K, not increasing to 33.6 until 1996. But most hackers of the era would tell you, enough time, enough persistence, dedication, or boredom, and you could use almost any computer to get into any system. When Dade and his friends were hanging out at the club, Cyril brings out many multiple colored reference books, rightfully referred to as the Rainbow or Crayola books, published by the DoD. These were composed of 27 Department of Defense books, where each book in the series was a different color. The orange book, Trusted Computer System Evaluation Criteria, is still used as a reference for security assessment today. The Pink Shirt book, a book featured with the famous computer program writer Peter Norton wearing a pink shirt on the cover. The Red Dragon book, Compilers, Principles, Techniques, and Tools, the colors of the book to represent the year the book was published. The Devil book, also referred to as the Demon book because of the BSD demon in sneakers on the front cover. And yes, even the Ugly Red book that won't fit on the shelf, referred to in Europe as the Ugly Red book that was sensible size, or the NSA Trusted Networks. Social engineering was another technique hackers used. Talking people into giving out passwords, information, or even just having them create a new login was easy. No one knew to be security conscious, except for those who were on the other side of the fence. This is how Dade breaks into the television station and Eugene breaks into the NCIC by impersonating an Alabama state trooper. Hacks didn't always stem from curiosity, sometimes it was war. After breaking into the television station, Dade accidentally crashes into another hacker, Acid Burn, and this starts a hacker battle that is reminiscent to the turf war between the Legions of Doom and Masters of Deception. If you look very close, you can see the line, message from root, on /dev/TTP5. This reveals that indeed Dade and Acid Burn have hacked into the same TV station Unix server. The Unix family of operating servers provided a command line utility called a wall, an abbreviation meaning write to all, a Unix command line that displayed the contents of a computer file and allowed users to broadcast messages to everyone else on the system. Some of the shorter hacks in the film were the school hacks, and at least one hacker online has admitted that he figured out how to get into their school network easy enough. And when they chose to expose the poor security of the software company responsible instead of thanks, they were punished. Sometimes hacks were a fight against the system. Canceling a credit card or manifesting a DUI would have been fairly simple. Home computers weren't on 24/7, and VPNs and proxies didn't really exist. So to cover their tracks, it would not have been uncommon to use a public payphone. Hackers would then go into an FTP server, which were notoriously insecure. This was because they used plain text passwords that were unencrypted, allowing them to become easily sniffed. Meaning if you were anywhere connected on a network that was between the two systems, you would be able to intercept and identify credentials used for authentication. Just as easy would be hacking into a newspaper dating advertisement. Like social engineering, some hacks were more direct, either through dumpster diving or looking over people's shoulder in the office. Confidential information was regularly thrown in the trash, as opposed to being shredded, and cubicles were rare, as was being concerned for someone typing in their passwords. Viruses were used to modify or erase information. In 1970s, an MIT student was hacked while working on his paper. The word cookie flashed across the screen. Unless the user responded right away, the flashing would speed up. Cookie, cookie, give me a cookie. After a few minutes of no response, it would flash the message, I didn't want a cookie anyway, and disappear. Prior to that, the only way to stop the error was to type the word cookie. Then a new message would appear, thank you, and it would go away. In computing, a fork bomb, also called a rabbit virus or a wabbit, in 1978 was a denial of service attack, where a process would continually replicate itself, flooding the target and depleting available resources, eventually slowing down or crashing the system. The flu shot would have been an antivirus to prevent a virus spreading. The Da Vinci virus was a hacker joke referencing the Michelangelo virus. This was a boot virus that activated on March 6, 1991. It was a pre-internet era virus and caused what was the first ever public malware scare in history. Considered more a study in mass hysteria than actual virus damage, it caused more panic and only infected a few thousand computers. Hackers was more than just a Hollywood movie of the 90s. It represented the hackers, the computers, the hacks, and viruses of the time. And in the end, it comes down to this. This was their world. The world of the electron and the switch, the beauty and the bod. They made use of the service already existing without paying for what could be dirt cheap if it wasn't run by profiteering gluttons. They explored, they seeked after knowledge. They existed without skin color, without nationality, without religious bias. Their crime was that of curiosity, the crime of judging people for what they said and think, not what they look like. Their crime was that of outsmarting everyone else, something they will never be forgiven for. They are hackers.